Beep, 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 beep. Hello, everyone. How the devil are we? Good morning, good evening, good night. And wherever the devil you are, welcome to the court of the Edijester. Got a great piece for you this morning called Oxford on the Spectrum. Why do so many bright undergraduates claim to be neurodiverse? And it comes from the diminutive and marvellous Jo Bartosch, one of the fastest writers I know. She can bang it out like nobody's business. So I'm always excited to see what Jo's got to say. And today she's writing in The Critic. So link, as usual, in the Dubris for you to have a look at, so you can go and read. This is a particularly interesting piece for me because I got myself in trouble. What a surprise! With a few people. Weird day on Twitter yesterday, kept getting kicked off. All sorts of nonsense. I had to change my password. Oh dear. And all the stuff that comes with it. Don't know why. Somebody else thought you might have been hacked, apparently. So I had to change it all. Before that, if you can buy me a coffee, buy me a coffee. Also, please do become a warrior teacher in April. The only way I can keep at it, folks, the only way I can keep working is for you to help me out in that way. I'm afraid that's all there is to it. This is how I make a living. So we really do need more people on the course. On the seminars, come and join us. So other than that, let's commence Oxford on the Spectrum. So here we go. At the University of Oxford, neurodivergence. You've heard that word. I'm neurodiverse. Are you? Okay. Neurodivergence isn't just a diagnosis, it's an upgrade. Now, isn't that interesting? It signals you're not merely a high achiever, you're an oppressed high achiever. Much like the transgender trend, the neurodiversity movement has given rise to a new class of entitled whingers, activists on a mission to stamp out neurotypical tyranny wherever they see it. Now, my comments about neurodiversity have got me in trouble previously with a few people who got very angry when I pointed out to them, despite that neurodiversity is in the argot, the language, the lexicon of queer theory. It's part of queer theory. And they go, no, it's not. My daughter's got, whatever it is that their daughter has got. And I said, I'm not arguing that people have conditions which are, which you would call conditions that are neuro, of the mind, that need help, assistance, whatever it may be, or for them to have to adapt in a certain way, or for an employer to have to adapt in a certain way that's reasonable. I'm not denying that. I'm saying to you that neurodivergence as a term, neurodiversity as a term, is the same as trans. And I've got the feeling that here's what Jo's going to do here. I mean, we'll continue going through it, obviously, to find out more. But I think that's what's happening. So if you say to people, well, you've got to take account of people who are neurodiverse. What does that even mean? Somebody comes to you and says, right, I'm on the autistic spectrum. This is what I need and I can function. That's reasonable. But neurodiversity as a word is exactly the same as trans. It's queer theory. It's the idea is that you collapse as much as you can categorizations that are useful because they don't like boundaries, do they? As Jo says here, the neurodiversity movement has given rise to a new class of entitled whingers, activists on a mission to stamp out neurotypical tyranny. So it's simply a mimetic box into which the queer theorists can put whatever they think is neurotypical and then fight against it. So it's another tool in the critical social justice rancid toolbox. You get where I'm coming from. Stop using it. Neurodiversity. It's just the same as trans, right? So let's keep going. Gone is the tacit understanding that academics can tend to be a little unworldly and idiosyncratic. That's fine. Today, the assumption is that universities are bastions of ableism, perpetuating discrimination against vulnerable students and staff who claim to have autistic spectrum disorder or to be grappling with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Writing in the Oxford Blue, one undergraduate described the struggle, complaining that neuronormative frameworks are replicated systematically and enshrined in the pedagogical approach of our structures of our universities. This is the same bullshit you'd hear about critical race theory. It's the same bullshit you'd hear about trans. You may not like that word neurodiverse, which has now been stolen from you in order to not have to say my kid's got ASD, right? Not that many people have. I think most of it's made up. This is people jumping on the bandwagon. This is victimhood garnering. This is going to upset a lot of people. Victimhood garnering. But examine. I mean, if you think that I'm wrong, examine your thinking and look at what's happening here. It's exactly the same principle. Neuronormative frameworks. Just change that to heteronormative. systematically enshrined in the pedagogical structures of our, i.e., in other words, it's systemic racism. That's the words of a systemic racism. It's of all critical social justice. Do you get it? This is the thing. We've got to stop using their language. Somebody else said about this yesterday. It's all in the language. Figures from 2022 to 2023 reveal that 1 in 4 Oxford students are registered with a disability advisory service. A 57% increase since 2017 to 2018. This is deeply worrying because they're lying, right? Because 1 in 4 of us have a disability. 1 in 4 by the time we get to 55. So this is not, hello. Of these students with mental health conditions make up the largest share at 27%. Whilst 26% claim to be neurodiverse. What does that even mean? Tellingly, nearly a third of DAS registered students first mentioned their disability after enrolling. It's another social contagion. This is why we've got to go back to hard-nosed, unemotional, I don't care about your problems teaching. This is why we've got to do it. Are you well enough to teach? Are you well enough to learn? No. Off you go. Thanks very much. Go home, right? That way, by being that, pushy-backy, we can make sure the people that do need the help get it, and the trolls, which is what they are, don't. Neurodiversity at Oxford, a project bankrolled by the Oxford Diversity Fund. It's just extraordinary. It's all the same people, right? It's all the same people doing exactly the same nonsense, isn't it? Right? I'm not going mad here. It is all the same people doing exactly the same nonsense. They aim to address the current lack of support for neurodivergent staff, and I'm sick of it. Founder Dr. Sean Gronley, diagnosed well into her academic career, by the way, argues the university should rethink our admissions process, our methods of assessment, and how we measure career progression. No. We are not doing away with meritocracy, what's left of it in the universities. It says here, formal diagnoses are dismissed as gatekeeping in favour of vibes-based self-diagnosis. On the academic side, the Neurodiversity Network, which draws the Neurodiversity Network, is another affinity group. The Neurodiversity Network, which draws from the same fund and is also headed by Dr. Gronley, seeks to nurture and promote work in progress on neurodivergence and intersectionality. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? Pressure to become neuro-inclusive isn't just top-down. The student union group Neuro Infinity welcomes anyone who identifies as neurodivergent or having neurodivergent traits. An educational video, just is absolutely beyond the pale. I can't say it. Just leave me alone. Oh my God. The student union group Neuro Infinity welcomes anyone who identifies as neurodivergent or is having neurodivergent traits. An educational video recommends that ASD and ADHD students be offered segmented tasks, flexible deadlines, and alternative course requirements, intellectually nurturing supervision and mentoring, and an empathetic learning environment. Oh, get in the bin! Right, okay, we haven't got time for all this. Oh, we've got huge problems in the world and you want to do this. There's a powerful incentive to get a label, from using laptops in exams to grants and mentoring. This dilutes the support that people who have a genuine problem that can be overcome getting support. It just dilutes that support that we can give them because of these absolutely ridiculous victim critical social justice morons, right? Because that's what it is. Neurodiversity has been politicised as yet another fashionable cause. To wield an ASD or ADHD diagnosis is to claim to be part of a discriminated against group, to be on the side of the global majority and against Zionism and climate change. I mean, it just gets more surreal. Predictably, Riz Posnett, the well-heeled non-binary campaigner who glued her hand to the table when Professor Kathleen Stock spoke at the Oxford Union, is vice chair of Neuro Infinity. God. She recalls the case of a gifted student who claimed to have ADHD and was given 25% extra time in exams, despite the lack of obvious need. In my opinion, they just lack structure and rigour, something that could be dealt with by robust methodological support, which is in part the purpose of academic training anyway. But of course, I couldn't say this, although I felt this was rather unfair on the rest of the class. Fear of being reported by entitled perma-victims is now an occupational hazard. There's a huge crossover between students who claim to be trans and those who say they are neurodivergent. It makes me very anxious as a lecturer. I don't want to be the subject of a complaint for simply applying the same standards to all my students and having high expectations of them. I have sometimes had to go to the faculty head to back up my assessments in case I'm accused of discrimination. Do you see it yet? Joe, you marvel. You're right. Now, I said this months and months and months and months ago. This is it. See, this is all the same thing. It's all the same template. It's all the same stuff. And it is driven by the Equality Act, which has to go at this point. Can we not see it yet? I'm not saying that we don't have something like it. Go back to what we had before. Race relations and all that. Go back to what we had before. Get rid of the damn thing. It's not fit for purpose because it's causing this. Right? Get rid of the public sector equality duty. It's not fit for purpose because it's causing this. And most of all, get rid of these students and stop fanning about with my money. Of course, I could be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. You know me. Come and be a warrior teacher. Come and join us. For God's sake, let's stop this nonsense. Other than that, you have a great day. Thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.